Hey guys, welcome to my new movie review. Today I'm going to be reviewing this film called Midnight Special. It's a film by, I believe his name is Jeff Nichols. He's worked on a film called Take Shelter, and he's also worked on a film called Mud. Some of you might have seen those movies. I know amongst film buffs, a lot of people have seen those two films. But he's back. He's making a new film called Midnight Special, and it's about a young boy with these special powers. He has like light from his eyes. He has energy powers. The energy kind of harnesses within his hands. Um, he has these telepathic abilities, which can tell people to do stuff, and he can um, use trickery on like technology and stuff to make it work the way he wants it to work. So he has all these little unique abilities that make him very special, and many people believe he's kind of a being of God. Like he can talk to God, he can um, get messages from him. So people kind of view him as this very special person, this person that can very much connect us with God even more than through the church could. So there's all this talk about, throughout the film, what this kid can really do and what his powers can do. And so, with all this talk, with all this buzz, with all this demand for people having possession of this kid, the mom and the dad of the child, the real mom and the dad, you'll find out in the movie kind of a little bit of what happened to why he had step parents and stuff like that too. But the real mom and dad basically take him on the run for this road trip. They get the help of a state patrol officer that the father is good friends with, and so through the help of this officer, they're able to get to this destination that's going to help this boy out. This destination just so happens to connect with his powers that he has. And there's, police officers and FBI and government who are after them. And it's important that they get this boy to this destination because there's a strong possibility that he could either die or get severely sick. It all relates to, once again, his powers that I really can't get into too much detail on as far as why he has to be in this destination because it's kind of spoiler territory if I go that route. So all you really need to know at this point is that he has to get to this destination. He has to avoid the government where he can. And if he doesn't get to the destination, either his health will go down the tubes really quickly or he could possibly die. So overall, guys, I thought Midnight Special was a really well done film. I know the director of this film loves the film Starman by John Carpenter, and while watching this movie, I could definitely see a lot of Starman references and inspiration from Starman. They're two different stories. Starman was more so about an alien learning how to be a human and learning about how this woman's husband was and how she lost him. This is more so about this little boy who's always been a human, and he harnesses these really powerful and unique powers. And this one's more related to like I said, like him connecting to God and him being able to hear things and predict things. And about people actually knowing about him. And so it's basically they're different stories, but you can definitely see the connections as you're watching both of how this director probably got inspiration to make this film through Starman. So overall, for my positives and negatives of this film has a lot to say about extraterrestrials and about people with unique powers. I think the film handles how a situation like this would be handled in real life. How like the moment the mother and the father find out just how big of a cult this boy is. They, take him on the run. They would put cardboard boxes up on these windows that you'll see them do throughout the movie so nobody can see these huge light beam powers coming out from his eyes. So they do all these preparation things with him as they're on the run throughout the movie. And it just really has a lot to say about how far someone who would have that in their family would go to make sure that that person that they love so much doesn't go out into the hands of the government or anything like that. The film also has a lot of messages about fatherhood. I know another reason why, once again, I'm pretty sure it's Jeff Nichols. I think that is his name. Why he made this movie was because I think he just became a father within the next last few years of before making this movie, or around the time he was making this movie. I think he became a dad. So that being said, he wanted to make a film about fatherhood and how when you become a dad, how your kids are really important to you and all that kind of stuff. And you can definitely tell that with Michael Shannon. He's doing all this stuff to make sure that his boy is away from the government. So the film has a lot of strong messages about fatherhood, and it's very powerful here. Another big positive about Midnight Special is it's old fashioned and it's not too Hollywoodized. You know, there's a couple moments here and there is like, oh well, that's pretty fake and everything, but and for the most part, it does feel old fashioned. It does feel like something that probably could have been made in the '80s. It has, you know, it's not just, oh, here's this boy with these extraterrestrial like powers and all that kind of stuff. It's really about, you know, thinking about how that would affect people, how people who love him would hide him from people. So, like I said, I like how it felt old fashioned. It didn't feel like typical Hollywood modern day blow everything up kind of blockbuster kind of movie. So I like how the director of this movie was able to accomplish this. I also like how the film often finds a way to feel realistic with its situations. Um, there are a lot of situations in this movie where I think somebody would do things as drastically as this mother and father would for their kid. If a situation like this were to come about with this child having unique powers. So I like how it felt realistic, and I like how the situations felt like, you know, real people were handling these situations. There's also some great acting performances in this movie. You know, Adam Driver just got off of Star Wars Episode 7, so obviously he had a lot of weight on his shoulders going from a big role like Kylo Ren from that movie into this movie as this FBI agent looking for this kid. And I like how they didn't just make him the typical bad guy. I liked how there was dimension to him, how he kind of gave leeway for this kid, how he, you know, was willing to trust this kid to be able to learn more about his situation and really look into the situation and learn more from people who personally know this kid. So I like how he wasn't just a typical bad guy making sure the government gets possession of this kid kind of character. He really was more than that, and I like how they were able to handle stuff like that. So, and Michael Shannon was great. Kirsten Dunst was good. I also like how they made Kirsten Dunst feel a little older in this movie. You know, we just had her as Mary Jane Watson in the early 2000s. You know, as the love interest to Peter Parker, and now she's this full-grown woman, and she's, I'm assuming her age in this movie was probably like late 30s, early 40s, and that's pretty appropriate. I like how they were able to make her feel like that in this movie. Um, Sam Shepard from Brothers is in this movie. Joel Edgerton's very good in the movie. He's usually always pretty good with this kind of stuff. So just really great acting performances overall. And the kid in this movie who played the little boy with the powers, I also thought did a great job as well. For my negatives of this movie, there's a lot of scenes in this movie. It is called Midnight Special after all, so a lot of scenes take place at night. But my negative with some of those scenes is whenever they're in like a really dark area where there's really not supposed to be a lot of lighting, it's very hard to see what's going on. There's a lot of scenes like when they're in like a dark hotel room when they're shutting lights off, or when they're driving down a street where there's no form of lights at all. Some of those scenes are kind of hard to watch just because it's so dark and you really can't see what's going on. Some scenes are better about this than others, but there's a lot of scenes in this movie where you really cannot tell what is going on some of these night shots. I also thought some of the kids' powers in this film felt a little convenient to the plot. Even when I was describing the synopsis of this movie, I was basically giving you broad visual details I was given while watching the movie of what exactly this kid has for powers. Because as far as I'm concerned, he really had like 6 or 7 different abilities, and for all I know, that there could have been more than that. And the film seems to make powers based on what the plot needed. Like, oh well, we need him to do this so that this character can be here and these characters can be there, and that way that character can come back. And so I thought they really could have decided what exactly this kid could and couldn't do. Because as far as I'm concerned, he just was able to do just about anything that required the plot to go whatever direction this director wanted to go. So it just felt a little convenient to me, and I really wish they could have narrowed down what exactly this kid had for powers. The third act of this film is also very strange. In fact, some of the negatives, most of the negatives from film critics that are coming from this movie are from the third act. I will say it's not a bad third act. I think my problem with it is, though, it's very strange. It's a very weird way to wrap up a movie. I think some people might be turned off by the way this film ends, just because it does ask a lot of questions. It doesn't really answer a lot of things. And it's a very and you'll see what I mean when you see the whole film. It's a very unusual way to wrap up a movie. I really didn't think it was bad. I think my problem with it is it's not so much what I felt about it, but I feel like what other people seeing this movie might feel about it, which is it's just very strange to take in. Just a very strange third act, so it is a negative for me. Some of the Act One characters in this movie kind of completely vanish after a while in the movie. Sam Shepard's character, he's probably in the first 25 minutes of this movie, maybe if even that, and he is nowhere to be seen in Act 2 or Act 3 of this movie, so he just kind of disappears. So certain characters like that I felt really didn't need to be in this movie. They're just kind of there to be like, oh, well, I know this kid because I did this, and oh, I know this kid because I took care of him during this situation in his life, and it just kind of felt a little pointless. I understood why they were there, but after a while, those characters just completely vanish away, nowhere to be seen once they reach the second or third act of the movie. And there's also some clips in the movie, specifically with Michael Shannon. Poor Michael Shannon. He did such a great job with this movie. His character was so powerful. He was such a great father figure in the movie. But there's some scenes in this movie that are very misleading as to what his character exactly does in certain situations, because they wrap up right in the middle of something and then we move on to the next scene and then we go back to that character that he did something with earlier, and it's like, oh wait, he didn't end up doing that one thing I thought he was going to end up doing the way the director made it set up. And I guess a good example of this, without ruining the movie or without spoiling anything, there's a scene where this guy is supposed to, he basically lets them in his house, he lets them stay for the night, but there's a scene where you think Michael Shannon might kill him based off of all this horrible stuff that he now put at risk for the child. The scene plays out as if Michael Shannon's about to go kill him, but the scene wraps up, they move on to something else, and then they move back to that guy again, and he ends up being perfectly fine. You know, Michael Shannon didn't kill him, so you just don't know whether he just got mad and walked away. Did he hurt this guy? So there's just certain details in this movie where, like, oh, well, we'll wrap right here, right when it's really important, move on to this other scene, and then go back to that scene from earlier, and oh, wait a minute, we completely forgot to show you what exactly, you know, Michael Shannon or this other character did to this other character. So just a little misleading in certain concluding clips of the movie. So just a minor nitpick, but something that kind of bothered me as I left the theater when it came to this movie. But overall, I'm going to give the film Midnight Special an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a very well done movie. I love how it makes you think about everything you saw as you watch the movie. It has a lot to say about people with unique powers. Its messages on fatherhood is very powerful. I liked how they didn't Hollywoodize too many things in this movie. I like how it felt old-fashioned. I like how it felt realistic. I like how the acting performances were very good, but some of the dark area lightings were kind of annoying after a while. The kids' powers felt a little convenient to the plot after a while. The third act's very strange. Some of the Act 1 characters vanish after a while, and some of these clips become very misleading, especially after you see what exactly happened to certain characters in this movie. So overall, 8.5 out of 10 for me. I think it's a really well done movie. If you haven't seen it yet, I do recommend it. If you like the film Starman, I would recommend seeing it just because it's very much inspired from that. And if you like Starman a lot, I think you'll like Midnight Special a lot as well. So 8.5 out of 10. Be sure to see Midnight Special. It's a very good movie.